So we're going to move on to DataHub. So Maggie and John, I believe you are co-hosts now, so you should be able to just take
Yeah,
it away.
awesome. Thanks so much, folks. I'm Maggie. I'm the Community Product Manager of DataHub. Super happy to be here. Excited to be chatting with you all. John, you want to give a quick intro to yourself?
Sure, yeah. Hey guys, I'm John, co-founder of Acral Data, which is the company behind DataHub, an open source metadata platform that we're going to be talking about. And kind of why we're here is to talk through an integration we've been recently working on with Great Expectations. Really excited to demo that. All right, Maggie,
Awesome.
back to you.
All right, let's dig into it. So, and we'll be sure to share the deck afterwards as well. So I'm going to give a quick intro to our community. So DataHub was open sourced in 2019. I think it was 2020, excuse me. And we're seeing our community really rapidly expanding. Right now we're at about 2,600 community members. We've grown over 700% in the past year. It's just been astronomical. The types of folks that are coming into our community skew towards data engineer, data platform engineers. We're also seeing more and more software engineers, as well as kind of like system architects or data engineering team leads or engineering managers. And I'm excited to also see that we're getting more and more product managers coming in, because I'm part community manager, part product manager. So we're getting kind of like that data product representation as well. We have folks literally across the globe. So our community is super active at all hours of the day. And then we have folks, in software companies, e-commerce, infotech, fintech, and everything in between. We have, obviously our GitHub is very active. We have a growing number of subscribers on YouTube, and then also our blog. So if you're interested in learning more about the code base, seeing some of our presentations, reading some of our blogs, we can make sure that you all get information or get the links out to that. So that's who we are. What is DataHub? So DataHub is an extensible metadata platform for the modern data stack. So the key things that we focus on are data observability, data discovery, and also federated data governance. As you all know, I'm sure you're very familiar with all of the different data tools, data options that exist and are rapidly rolling out. So DataHub is really kind of that central layer to build a high fidelity metadata graph so that we can provide a single source of truth for both the semantic and physical identity of your data assets. So that's a lot of buzzwords. I think the easiest thing to do is actually just jump in and see what DataHub is all about. So this is open to the public, just demo.datahubproject.io. And you can come in here and just start to poke around, get a sense for what the tool is all about. So off of our landing page, you'll see that we have metadata from anything from ML models to pipelines, glossary terms, dashboards, data sets. We also split it out by the variety of platforms that we support. This is an ever-growing set of integrations. So even if you don't see something on our demo site, it doesn't mean that we don't support it. It's just a subset of what we have right now. We're also starting to represent data in terms of domains. So this is kind of like the data mesh of it all. So how does a data product fit within a domain? What are all the entities within that? And then we also have some ideas of recommendations so people can kind of like jump in and get started. So that's just a simple landing page. Let's pretend that I'm an analyst and I know that there's a table that exists about entities, but I'm not exactly sure what that is. So we can go into our unified search. And of course, we love when a demo fails live. That's always nice. So this gives you a unified search screen across all the entity types, all the domains. We offer all these different facets so you can kind of slice and dice. So maybe I know that there's a table or something called entities, and I think it's confidential, but I'm not exactly sure what else is there. So then I notice, okay, I know that I'm looking for a snowflake table. So let's jump in and see what this is all about. So on your data set entity page, you'll see a schema field where you see kind of like your column level types, If you have definitions at source, we'll extract that. You can also come in here and edit to your delight as much as you would like. You can add tags and terms at the column level. You can also add tags in those terms at the data set level. And then you also get just like a really quick view of who are the top users of this data set, what's the size of the data set, how often is it queried, also this idea of ownership. So if I have questions, who do I go talk to about this? And then my personal favorite, we start to think about lineage. So where did this data come from? Where is it used downstream? And so we have this idea of kind of like a tabular view, but then we also have a more kind of like interactive visualization where you can start to really understand the full end-to-end creation and consumption of this data. So this all entities data set is used in a variety of, or referenced in a variety of Airflow jobs, also superset resources, local resources down here. You can expand this out into a chart, into a dashboard, or another table into another looker thing. And then you can also start to explore all the way upstream. So again, if I'm an analyst, let's say I have questions about where did this data come from, how is it produced, I can see the Airflow tasks that generated it, the raw data that it came from in S3, and all the way up to kind of the terminal node. And then of course, if you select one of these, you'll notice that because this is our demo site, there's just a lot of kind of like gobbledygook in here. But this is where you can start to get like a preview of all of these entities here. Another thing that we recently rolled out is this idea of impact analysis. So more often than not, when we hear people asking about lineage, they want to understand if I'm pushing a breaking change to my data set, what's going to happen? Who do I need to talk to? Is this a big deal? Is it not a big deal? So we rolled out this idea of impact analysis. So if I own this data set, I can quickly start to see all of the assets that are dependent on this at some stage, not necessarily immediately dependent on it, but there's kind of that ripple effect there. And so what you can do is similar to our unified search view, you can slice and dice by platform or tag or even the owner of it. And then let's say, this is the subset that I really care about. Obviously only 2 of them. That's kind of easy to comprehend, but in a production environment, more often than not, there are hundreds, if not thousands of these things. So we also rolled out the ability to, export this list. You get a really, easy to use slice and dice CSV that'll show you all the entity types, the owners associated with it. You can do whatever you want with it from there. All right, a couple more things to point out. We also offer a view of the most popular, most recent queries, so you can get a sense of how is this data being used. And then also there's some really simple stats around the, the size of the table, distribution of the columns, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the latest snapshot, also historical view of it. So really what this gets to is this idea of like collecting all of this metadata and context and providing that kind of like 360 view of all of your data entities, both the semantic components of it, but then also like the physical, where is it stored, how is it transformed, and what does that represent? So I'm gonna halt it here. I encourage you all, if you're interested, you can jump in. Like I said, the demo.datahubproject.io is open and free for y'all to use. But so hopefully that gives you kind of a sense of what DataHub is all about, and then we can transition into why we started working on a validation component along with Great Expectations. So, and then John, I think you wanted to talk a little bit of the kind of like the how DataHub runs quickly.
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I take over screen share, Maggie?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
1 second.
All right. Thanks for the overview, Maggie. Let's enter. Yeah, so I just quickly will cover some like differentiation with DataHub versus some other tools in terms of like the principles on which it's built. We are a push first system. What that actually means is that all of our indexing, how we go out and talk to all of these different sources of metadata, is really about having distributed agents that live as close to the metadata as possible, pushing it into DataHub. as opposed to having like a centralized system that has to go out and scrape and talk to all of these systems, which makes it really conducive for, complex cloud deployments where you may have multiple network topologies or even multiple clouds running, where there's not really a practical centralized solution to aggregate metadata from all of your myriad of data sources you have. Second is that it's stream centric, meaning like the heart of DataHub is really a stream. You're able to stream metadata changes into DataHub's platform via Kafka. And you can also get a stream coming out of DataHub, which details the changes to your metadata graph. This drives a lot of our downstream consumption use cases like notifications, even keeping our indexes up to date in our own system. Finally, it's schema first. So we have a very robust kind of modeling layer where we model the entities that comprise the metadata graph and the relationships between them very explicitly. On the right side, you can see just the various components of the DataHub stack, a lot of interesting technologies. Okay, so now finally, why we're here at Great Expectations talk. So our goal was to integrate data quality signals into the DataHub metadata graph as one of those signals comprising a data set's identity, as Maggie pointed out earlier. Specifically, we got a request from our community that had quite a bit of upvotes, which was to display the outcomes of Great Expectations checks along with a data set's other information inside of the DataHub UI. And so in particular, someone asked to be able to see the types of data set and common level tests, as well as the kind of history of the evaluations over time. So to see how outcomes of Great Expectations checks are changing as they're run over time. So now I'm just going to pop into a demo of how this integration ended up. I'm going to come over to my editor here where I've got a Great Expectations project. And I've got a Postgres data source, which is running locally. It's got a few tables in it, the famous tables for taxi data, Jan 19th and Feb 19th here. And then I have some expectations set up on both of them, very basic. I think some of these probably came with my default project. And then finally, I have a checkpoint, which is just going to run those expectations against those two tables. And so how to integrate DataHub into this flow? Well, it's kind of a two-step process. The first thing is you're going to want to install the Great Expectations plugin of Acral DataHub, which is the DataHub project CLI. I've already done that, so I think we should be okay on that step. But once you do that, we've actually created a DataHub action, which you can configure in your checkpoint list. And it's just basically going to take the results of the expectation runs, try to identify the data set associated with them, so the source, and then push them into DataHub. I have DataHub running that server on 8080. So I'm just going to quickly run the checkpoint here and show you, hopefully everything goes well, what it should look like in DataHub. Okay, cool. So we have one suite which passed 9 out of 9, and we have one suite that failed with passing 6 out of 9 of the expectations. So now I'm going to head over to DataHub. Okay, so we're going to start looking at the one that just passed. If you go into here, you'll see a tab called Validation. And if you click on that, this is where you can see the assertions that have just run on Great Expectations. So we model them as a concept called assertion, which is basically an expectation. And you can see there's 9 of them. And then what we can additionally do is, beyond kind of seeing the English language description of these, is we can click them open and we can see the historical runs over time. So we can see that it passed at this time, passed at this time, passed at this time. So you can start to track things, over the last month, over the last 3 months, which I think is really, really interesting, really nice. We also try to surface as much of the native context from Great Expectations as we possibly can. So, in cases where we can derive like an English description, we do, but in other cases, we fall back to showing the actual Great Expectations type, the assertion or the expectation name in particular, as well as the inputs and the outputs there. So you can see an example of that below, where we're not able to maybe derive like the cleanest English language description. So we just say this column is passing assertion with name, expect column to be inset. Now I'll show quickly what the failing case looks like. So this is the Feb 19th. You can see this thing is failing right now, all of its recent assertions. And here you'll see particularly which ones are failing. Again, you can dig in to see, why it failed in particular over time. So yeah, that's pretty much the integration. I'm going to step back into the presentation now and just talk a little bit more about the roadmap and how we've done it so far. So I know we're kind of running short on time. I'll try to be brief here, but I'll just briefly cover how we think about modeling these expectations or assertions in our own metadata graph. We have a concept of a scope, which is basically what is the assertion or expectation on? Is it on a column? Is it on the set of rows? Is it on the schema, like the columns that are in the table, for example, itself? We have inputs, which can be a particular column or a set of columns. We have an optional aggregation, which would be something like a min or a max. Anytime you're going to do that roll up across rows on a particular column or input. We have operators, which are greater than, not null, less than, equal to, all of those. And then we have the parameters, which are the values on the right side of that predicate, the actual greater than x. So yeah, configuration recap really quick is install Acro DataHub Great Expectations, just add that action in, execute your checkpoint, and then hopefully your results should be appearing in the catalog. In terms of availability, we recently released this feature in version 0.8.28. It supports dataset table and column assertions, and it has support in particular for the Great Expectations v3 API. So we haven't supported the v2 API. If we do get community feedback that we need that, we may consider that. Push assertion results, yes, via the real-time action as we showed. The other limitation is that this is only implemented for the SQL Alchemy execution engine today. Finally, we have a GraphQL API, which allows you to go and check the status of a data set, grab those assertions, grab other context along with that. Okay. Finally, I'll just talk about where we think we're going to go from here on this integration. Firstly, we've already heard from the community on DataHub side that they'd like to see support for other execution engines, as we expected, Spark, Pandas. Based on the feedback from the community, perhaps considering support for legacy APIs if a lot of people are still using them, but I suspect that you guys are pushing people to v3 pretty aggressively, so I don't necessarily know if we'll need to do that. Support for cross dataset assertions. I think you guys touched on that in the Q2 roadmap earlier. Support for displaying conditional expectations, another thing you touched on earlier. So yeah, just a quick shameless plug for how to try this out. There's DataHub quick start guide you can go check out, which is pretty quick, 5-minute start. And then data quality with Great Expectations guide will show you exactly how to get that metadata into the catalog. All right, final plug, join the DataHub community from all of these great channels. And finally, thank you very much to the Superconductive team, to Kyle and to Great Expectations for having us here today. This is definitely very exciting for us, so appreciate it. I will pause there for any questions we have.
Thanks so much for joining. That was really cool. It's awesome to see it integrated. Love the little pip icon at the end of the tests as well. That made me happy. I think someone asked if it's possible for us to share the presentation. Yeah, if you want to dump that in the Slack, but I'll also include it in sort of our roundup blog as well.
Yeah, and I can post the link to it in chat here, and then Kyle will also send it on over to you.
Perfect. Looks like I have a question from Ezekiel. Can you search for failed assertions dataset in DataHub search bar?
So
that's a great question. Yeah.
That's a great question. And actually it's come up a couple of times, like being able to say passing assertions, find me all the data set with passing assertions or failing assertions. Unfortunately, you cannot. but you can get the latest status or the health of a data set by having the identity of that data set already. So you could, get all of your assets and then ask DataHub, hey, is this one passing? Is this one passing? Is this one passing? That's what we would support today.
Cool. Again, if anyone has any more questions about the integration, you have 2 Slack communities to ask the questions in. Do you know who to ask?
I'm in the Great Expectations community as well. So you're welcome to reach out to me there if you have any other questions. You don't have to join another Slack community. I don't know about y'all, but I have like a scroll bar of communities I'm in, and I know it can be a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, definitely. I hear that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, again, thanks so much. And
yeah, thank you all.
Keep an eye on the evolution of this integration. I'm sure more content is to come.
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, before we wrap it up, I just want to pass over to Alina, who's just going to say a few words about Great Expectations Cloud.
Thanks, Kyle. Hey, everyone. So I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alina, and I lead go-to-market here at SuperConnective. And we have some exciting news. Our team has been building a SaaS product, and we've been working with really early design partners from the community for the past couple months to implement feedback directly into product development. So there's a couple ways you can get involved. You can either ask for an invite to our cloud workshops. They're Tuesdays at 8:30 Pacific and Thursdays at 11:30 Pacific, and we'll show you a behind the curtain look at our product roadmap. Or if you want to be part of our private alpha program and go on a data quality journey with us, your feedback will have a direct impact on how we prioritize product roadmap or product features and overall design. So if you're interested, reach out to me on Slack or send me a note at alina@superconnective.com.
Thanks, Lena. Appreciate it. Everyone check that out. We've been getting some demos internally that are really, really, really exciting. Yeah, can't wait for everybody to get their hands on that. Yep. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much again for everyone who joined, and we'll keep an eye out for the Roundup blog, and we'll see you next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.